Hello, and welcome to another video. Alright, so, I think you guys know the drill by now if you've been watching my videos for this, so far this month. I'm going to be spinning a wheel and it's going to be picking what book I read off of my TBR. So I have only 4 books left on my TBR. I have P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han. This is the second book in the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy. Then I have an ebook, The Truth Beyond the Lies by Kathleen Bird, which is a fairy tale retelling gender-swapped Pinocchio in a steampunk era. Interesting. And then we have Trials of Apollo, The Burning Maze by Rick Riordan. This is the 3rd book in the Trials of Apollo series. And then we have The Fever Code by James Dashner. This is the 2nd prequel to the Maze Runner trilogy. I've said this so many times I got it down by now. So yeah, we're just gonna flip it right on around and let's figure out what book I'm reading now. Alright, here we go. Time to spin the dreaded wheel. Because at this point, I don't know what book I want. I'm kind of okay with going... I hope I don't get P.S. I Still Love You. I would kind of like a non-romance after just reading a romance. And then I get P.S. I Still Love You. Please keep going, keep going. Fever Code, yes! I was really hoping I didn't get that one last, actually. Okay, so the Fever Code, let's go. I was actually really worried about getting this one last due to the, last at the end of the month or whenever I get through all these books. Because I read Kill Order last month, and it didn't put me into a slump. It put me into a rut, where I was like, I don't really want to read. And then I read The King's Scroll at the beginning of this month, and that fixed that right up. So I will be reading The Fever Code by James Dashner in this video. Yay! So, for context, if you've never read the Maze Runner trilogy, hold up, I'm gonna go grab them so I can, explain this fully. And I'm back. Okay. So if you've never read the Maze Runner trilogy, here are the 3 books. The first book is called The Maze Runner. Second book, The Scourge Trials. Third book, The Death Cure. So these 3 were published first. So I would if you do want to read the series, I recommend reading these 3 first and then the 2 prequels. Similar to how The Hunger Games is doing that right now. They have the original trilogy that came out first and then the 2 new prequels that have come out. Read the first trilogy, then read the prequels. Because the prequels are not meant to be read first. And that's kind of how I feel about with the Maze Runner prequels. They're not meant to be read first. They're meant to be read after you already get to know what happens to these characters in these first 3 books. Because by the time you read all 3 of these, you're pretty well attached to these characters. I did say in my Kill Order reading vlog that the Kill Order does not have any of the characters from the original Maze Runner trilogy in them. In it, it's following new characters, talking about the beginning of the sun flares that destroy the world, that lead up to this, what happens in this book. Why this stuff what happens in these books happens is because of what happens in the Kill Order and the flare and whatever. That's kind of almost giving a backstory to, hey, this is what actually happened and this is what led to the stuff that happened in this. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. This prequel, however, does follow the main characters that we meet in The Maze Runner. This takes place before they get sent. Some of them get sent to. I can't talk. This takes place. No, this one. I'm struggling here, people. This story takes place before Thomas gets sent into the maze. So this basically, I wouldn't read this before you read this, because then you know a bunch of stuff, and then it kind of, the surprise and plot twists in this don't happen anymore. So, I actually softy DNF'd The Fever Code a while back, just because I just wasn't in the mood to read a dystopian at the time. So I softy DNF'd it. I'm like, I'm going to get back to it. So I'm getting back to it today, or however long it takes me to read this. So this one I think I may enjoy more than The Kill Order, just because it does have the characters that I know and love from the original trilogy. So it'd be easier for me to get into it being like, hey, I get to find out the backstory with these characters is why all this happened. Because there are some loose ends, I feel like, and like not plot holes, but like some things of like from the original trilogy that you're kind of just like, so how did this happen? Like like that type of thing where you're like, how did this happen? How did these two get to know each other? What, like, things like that. Like, okay, so what are all these memories they've forgotten? Because it says even on the back of the Maze Runner book, so I'm not spoiling anything. If you ain't scared, you ain't human. They have so many amazing quotes from this. When Thomas wakes up in the lift, the only thing he can remember is his name. He's surrounded by strangers, boys whose memories are also gone. So basically, when Thomas gets sent up into the maze, he doesn't have any memories. None of the people in the maze have memories. This takes place before that happens, so we get to see all the things that Thomas forgets in this book. So that's why, again, I would recommend reading the original trilogy before reading the prequels, due to the fact that this book I feel like would really lose its, like, oh my goodness, he doesn't remember anything, when you actually know what he's forgotten. I don't know if that would just change the reading experience. So 10 out of 10 would recommend reading the trilogy first and then reading the prequels. But, so, yeah, I don't really want to read the back of this because this could end up spoiling the trilogy. But I cannot wait to dive into this. I'll try and keep this spoiler free, because I don't want to spoil the series for you. The Kill Order wasn't that difficult to keep spoiler free, since none of that really affected, like, none of the characters in that really affected the characters in the original trilogy. But yeah, so I keep saying this. I say this over and over again and then start talking again. So, final time, let's dive into the Fever Code. Hello. I am 38 of the way through the Fever Code on page 132, chapter 24. Stuff's going down. Stuff has happened that I'm like, so that it clears up so many questions I had, because I need to collect my thoughts. For a reminder, because I'm pretty sure I said this at the beginning of the video, I soft DNF'd this book like a year ago. Maybe longer than that, actually. Maybe like 3 years ago. I really don't remember. But it's been a minute. So, jumping back into this, especially after reading Kill Order last month, and now reading this one, this is explaining so much, and I'm only 38% of the way through it. It's explaining so much. I mean, we've met Minho, we've met Newt, we've met Albie, we've met Chuck already in 38% of the way. We've met Teresa, obviously. Thomas. Found out Thomas's actual name. That only like the first 2 chapters, I think. Weirded me out just a little bit. Just a little bit, because he kept calling himself by it, and I'm like, and I started laughing, imagining if the Maze Runner books, he would have gone by that name instead of Thomas. I don't know why it's so funny to me, but if the rest of the series he would have gone by the name that he was given before it got changed to Thomas, I don't know if I would have been able to take it seriously. Because it's not like I don't want to spoil I guess I could spoil his name. But basically, his name was Stefan originally. Because this may just be because I've read the original trilogy and watched the movies, that he's Thomas. Dylan O'Brien is Thomas. But if you've seen the movies, you know he's a perfect Thomas. So I'm picturing those scenes, but instead of them yelling Thomas, they yell Stefan, and it sounds so weird. It doesn't sound right. So I don't know why that's just so weird to me. but anyways, I am enjoying this. We just met Chuck. Sweet baby boy Chuck. He's so sweet. Also, for those of you who probably don't know this, because I don't know if it's explained at all. I think this is like an author thing, but each one of the characters is named after like famous people in history and in science, like scientists and stuff like that. So Thomas is named after Thomas Jefferson. So famous historical person. I think it's Thomas Jefferson. I'm gonna assume that. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. If you know if I'm wrong, please let me know. Newt is, I think, short for Isaac Newton. Albie, I think, is Albert Einstein. Minho, I have no idea. Chuck, I think, is Charles Darwin. And then Teresa, I think, is Mother Teresa. But I don't know who Minho is. So if you know who Minho is, comment down below. I'd like to know. I'm trying to think of other... we haven't met any of the other characters yet. Gally from the original trilogy. I think his is Galileo. Was who he's named after. So all of them... When they come in, all their names get changed from, like, the names they were given at birth to these new names that they have to be known by. And they're all, like, science or historical based. So, fun fact for you. That's just a little niche thing that I love about this series. Is that I'm like, yeah, I could totally picture them being called this. Because obviously they are. So him being called Stefan at the beginning of this book really weirded me out. Because I'm like, I can't picture him being called Stefan. I don't know why, it just doesn't sound right. When I picture this book series, it's almost like, you know how Neville, in Harry Potter, he could have been Harry Potter. Like, it could have been Neville Longbottom in the Sorcerer's Stone, and it just doesn't sound right. It's like, would he have been able to handle that? I feel like he would have died in the first book. Because of how Neville was in the first book, I don't think he could have done it. I genuinely do not think he could have made it. But that's a whole other story for a whole other time. Or a whole other rant for me to go on later. But it felt like that, like how it's almost like this could have gone a completely different direction if he would have been called Stefan. I guess if he would have been called Stefan, it just would have made sense. Maybe it's just because I'm so used to him being called Thomas. And he's back to being called Thomas now. So, there's a quick little name rant for you. I am really enjoying this one. I'm enjoying this one more than I enjoyed the Kill Order. Mostly because it is the characters that I already knew and I've already grown attached to due to the trilogy, that reading this now I'm like, that explains so much. That is how that happened, because we don't know this stuff in the trilogy due to the fact that their memories are erased in the trilogy. All of them don't get their memories back, except for nope, no one does. Because if I tell you who does, spoilers. I think that just kind of spoiled a little bit of something. Wait, actually, no, that might be movie. It's been a minute since I've last read the Maze Runner trilogy. I've seen the movies more recently, so the movies are still stuck in my head, but I know that the second and third movie do not correlate to the second and third book. So I may be thinking movie, that someone gets their memories back in the movie, but not in the books. So let's just go with nobody gets their memories back in the books. I remember bits and pieces of one of Scorch Trials, at least the beginning of Scorch Trials. I vividly remember the Maze Runner, the first one, because I've read that one more, I wouldn't say more recently, but I've read it more recently than the other two. So I can't remember. I don't think any of them get their memories back. We're just going to go with that. So this is basically all the stuff that gets wiped from their minds that we know nothing about and we'd never know anything about until we read this book. So that's really interesting for me, especially I'm a pretty big Maze Runner fan. I wouldn't say it's like my top dystopian series. That's definitely reserved for the Hunger Games. Hunger Games got number 1, but Maze Runner is definitely a close second to that. I don't read a lot of dystopian, so there's only probably like 5 on there. I don't even think that's accurate. But this is definitely this series is definitely a close second to Hunger Games for me. I don't know what I'm going to rate this, though. Because it was a soft DNF, so when I sat down to read it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember, like, at the first, I think I read the first 5 probably the first 7 chapters. It was before before Thomas had met his buddies. So I think like the first 7 chapters, and then I just soft DNF'd it because I just couldn't keep reading it because I wasn't in the mood for it. This is back when I mood read and didn't really do TBRs very often. So in the sense of that, picking this, like I read that part, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember all this. So that part was a little slow going because I'm like, I remember all this. Where's the part where I don't remember anything? Here it is. And like I said earlier, I haven't picked this book up in at least 3 years, and I still vividly remember the beginning of this book. Curse my good reading brain. I don't really know if that's... I don't have a photographic memory, by the way. I do not. If I did, I would have been incredible in school. I was okay. So don't go thinking I have a photographic memory. That's not up here. I'm just good at remembering certain things. Like song lyrics and books. Which, again, I'm going to go on a huge rant here. If you want to skip this rant, I'd go ahead. I struggle with rereading books because of the fact that they're still very clear up in my head. Like, I have to wait so long to at least forget, like, specific details about a book before I go back and reread it. So, an example of this is the Percy Jackson and the Olympians books, the first 5 of those. I read in, like, 2020 for the first time. I have not been able to pick those up again, not because I haven't wanted to, but because anytime I've thought about it, I've remembered them as clearly as if I read them the day before. So it's been probably about 5 years. It's been about 5 years since I started rereading them December of last year. So it's been 4 years. And I finally was able to sit down and read The Lightning Thief without remembering everything that happened in The Lightning Thief. So I struggle with that, with rereading books when I just remember the plot so clearly. Now, if as time goes on, I do not remember the details as clearly, but I do remember, like, the basic plot points and, like, the plot. I remember the gist of it. So, like, going back and rereading it, when I still have that very clear in my brain, I'm like, well, what's the point of that? This is such a long rant. Anyways, rant over now. Just saying that, hey, if you relate to my struggle of vividly remembering the plot of the books you read and not being able to reread them for a long time, like the video and comment down below what book series that is for you. Because I guess it's no longer, never mind, rant's not over. I guess it's no longer Percy Jackson since I've started rereading it now. I don't know what series that would be for me now, because I'm starting to, like, might be Harry Potter, but that's also, I've read that series at least 7 times. So there could be that. But yeah, so now rant over. I'm just checking what time it is. Because I'm closing the store, so I need to know what time it is. Back to this book and not my problems as a reader. I understand now why these characters are the way they are without their memories in the future books. Because we just had a moment with Minho where he wants to get out. He wants to escape. And I'm like, that's so much like Minho in The Maze. He's a runner. He wants to get out of the maze. He wants to help all of his friends get out of the maze. You get a snippet of that personality to him, like that side of him in this scene where I'm like, yeah, so you're kind of... And then you also get Thomas overthinking everything. Not everything. He doesn't overthink everything. Actually, he becomes more rash, I think, when he gets into the maze. He doesn't really think about his decisions until after he makes them and being like, oh, that wasn't a good decision. I shouldn't have done that. But in this, he's very heavy on the overthinking. Now, he still has his sarcastic wit. And he bothers Teresa with it 24/7. It's amazing. And I love these characters so much. And it's great to... I keep saying I'm sorry. It's great to keep... How do I explain this? I like this also with Hunger Games as well. Hunger Games has been doing this. It's awesome that I can still read a new story about these characters. Now, these prequels have come out a while ago, and I don't think there will be any other new books about these characters anytime soon, I don't think. James Dashner, do whatever you want with that. If you're even watching this, probably not. But what I'm saying is it's kind of nice to get these characters that I've known and loved for so long in the original trilogy, get some either backstory or something along those lines, because with Hunger Games, they've done Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping. I have not read Sunrise on the Reaping yet. No spoilers, people. No spoilers. I will be reading it, though. And I kind of get that, oh, great, I get to dive back into this world with a brand new story, but with characters I already know and sometimes love. Obviously, in Ballad of Songbirds sense, I did not love Cornelius Snow. Not Cornelius, Coriolanus Snow. But he was a character we've already known and we've hated because of what he did in the trilogy. So coming to hear his backstory is pretty cool. So that's something that I'm loving that some authors have been doing, is kind of doing some prequels in the same world, but just with characters that we know and sometimes love, just when they were younger. And I think that's amazing. Obviously, this one's not as new as the Hunger Games ones are, but it's still great to kind of get to see Thomas as a young boy and his startup in Wicked, and him becoming kind of the guy he is when he gets into the maze, even though he doesn't remember what made him into that person, if that makes any sense. So it's really enjoyable. Again, I don't know what I'm going to rate it. I'm only 38% of the way through it. So I will come back and update you guys when I'm probably like 50-60% of the way through, and I may have a whole nother rant for you. Okay, so here's a quick update. I'm only like 78% of the way through this, and something just happened that I wasn't expecting. A bit of Teresa's backstory was found out. So in the Kill Order, the prequel before this one, I said in that reading vlog of, I didn't really connect with any of the characters because I didn't know any of them. Turns out I was wrong. Dee Dee, the immune that Mark and his group of non-immunes, like normal people, found and took care of and tried to protect, was actually Teresa, who is in this and in the rest of the trilogy. And I just found that out in this prequel, and I was like, that explains so much as to why Teresa is the way she is. Because comparatively, Teresa is very much like the ends justify the means. Yeah. She's like, we need to get a cure. We need to do this. We need to save this planet. So we need to save these people at all costs. Whether it's killing her friends without any cost. Well, Thomas is very on the other side of like, we don't have to kill people for this. This is wrong. We shouldn't do this. This is not morally correct. But he has to just because of circumstances and whatever. And I always was like, Teresa, girl, why are you so focused on healing these people when really the Wicked should have been focusing on the immunes and sending them someplace safe so they could, take over the world and not have to worry about, and like the cranks will die out eventually. They could survive, and that's the whole premise of the trilogy, at least. And Teresa, when she was Dee Dee, the girl from the Kill Order, she was in the place where the flare was first released, and she was already immune to it. So her camp that she was in all turned against her because they got the flare and she didn't, and they thought she was some demon. And then she went on the run with Mark and his group. And she was chased by cranks. She was captured by cranks. She was terrified of them. She went through a whole lot before Mark was able to get her to Wicked, before they were called Wicked, and say like, hey, she's an immune. You do something. I don't think he really knew what they were gonna do, but he knew that she needed to be somewhere with people who could like help her, and keep her safe. So knowing that about Teresa's past, because you don't find any of that stuff out in the trilogy, obviously because that hadn't been written yet. the prequels hadn't been written yet. So finding out about Teresa, it kind of makes sense how like she was very traumatized when she was a little kid, and that means she was like the first immune that Wicked ever got, if I recall correctly. That was the first one. That's crazy. And also explains why she's so loyal to Wicked in the future, or why she is so loyal to Wicked right now. Just because they kept her safe when the world was. She's actually probably, out of all of the 4 kids right now, Aries, Rachel, Thomas, and Teresa, she's the one who probably has had the worst traumatic experience with cranks, due to now that I've read it, now that I know what she went through, is insane. Because Thomas was like, oh yeah, I was like, my dad was Thomas's dad was a crank, and his mom sent him away to keep him safe, but he did not experience what Teresa went through. That's a whole, whew. Now I'm thinking about the kill order in a whole new way. Like, I'm like, oh, so that was a great name drop there. James Dashner, that was great. I wouldn't even say it was foreshadowing, because like I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have even thought that Dee Dee was any character that I knew, and it was Teresa. She was probably the first to have her name changed, to be honest. That would make sense with her. Yeah, it just kind of gives more, I understand her character more now, and I don't hate her as much, because I've never been a huge Teresa fan, and there were parts of this book where I'm kind of still like, girl, Thomas is kind of in the right in this situation. Can we maybe listen? Nope. Okay. You're just gonna be stubborn and trust people who are probably not the best people to trust. But now, understanding what she went through as a kid, and how Wicked probably is the only place she felt safe, it makes sense to me why she's so loyal to them. It makes sense to me why she ended up being one of the top 4 like crazy smart kids that they kept around and sent into the maze. Because 1, she was the first immune, I'm assuming, and 2, she's extremely loyal to them and will do whatever it takes to get a cure, even if it means doing things that are not morally correct. I still don't love her though. As much as like it clears up some parts of her personality or worldview that she has, knowing her past and how her childhood was, I still don't like her. I still don't like her, because it's just like they're, especially because after this, at some point, a spoiler warning for the spoiler alert, for the Maze Runner, she loses her memories at some point, and she's, well, again, I haven't read the actual books in forever, so I'm probably still thinking movie wise, but still, she wasn't a great character, if I recall correctly. She did get on my nerves quite a bit from what I call reading in the books. But yeah, so there's a little spiel there for you about what I just found out about Teresa and her past that I read in the previous book, and I didn't realize it. So yeah, all right, I'll probably see you in the next clip, the end of this book. Once I finish this book, that'll be the next thing. See you then. End of the video. Finish the Fever Code, and I'm gonna come right off the bat. I give this book 3.75 stars. Not saying that it's better than the Kill Order, but it's not as good as the original trilogy. So I did really enjoy this. I loved all the lore that was dropped in this book, all of the backstories that were dropped in this book. I loved every second of that, and I loved getting to find out how they were sent into the maze. This is also making me remember how long it's been since I've read the actual books, and how currently, when I think of Maze Runner, I think of the movies, which are not, how do I explain it? They don't stay with the same timeline as the books. They're different plots than the books are. So there was parts in this and I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen, because I haven't read Scorch Trials in forever, or Death Cure in forever. I've read The Maze Runner a little bit more recently. But I also loved just getting to see Thomas's background with Wicked, because it's brought up and mentioned obviously in the books, but it's not like he knows that. He finds out he had some sort of connection to Wicked, but he didn't know what it was. He didn't know what he did. And seeing him and Chuck's relationship as well from before they get sent into the maze, and just how sweet that is. And also, Brenda and Jorge are in this. Did not know that. But yeah, again, like, a bunch of lore was dropped in this book. A bunch of foreshadowing dropped in this book. Which is why I gave it 3.75 stars. I liked it better than The Kill Order, which I'm pretty sure I gave 2 stars. Because it was, I was bored for the majority of that book. And in this one, there were parts of this book that I was kind of bored of. I was like, oh, yeah, can we get to something more interesting? But other than that, this book was really good. And I recommend the Maze Runner series, so I recommend the prequels as well. And I'm really glad I picked this up again after soft DNFing it for at least like a year and a half or something. I'm glad I picked it up again, and now I can't wait to read the trilogy knowing this. Because I actually may annotate my Maze Runner book. I've thought about doing that. Because I'm doing that with Hunger Games right now. So as I'm rereading the original trilogy of the Hunger Games, I'm annotating them. So, yeah. Really enjoyed this one. I did a whole rant earlier on in this video, so I'm not going to rant again. But it was good. I liked the ending. Obviously, the ending almost left off at a cliffhanger, even though I know what happens. At least in the first book, in the Maze Runner, the first book of the trilogy, I remember. So, yeah, thanks for sticking around this long and watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye!